So welcome everyone. So excited for this event. I know I'm ready. I've got my notes, my note taking ready to go because I have a lot to learn here on AI and Claude. And be honest, I've never used Claude before. I kind of didn't even know what it was. But excited to have you all here and excited to introduce you all to Melissa Drake, who is going to be our moderator for the event. And you can see a little bit about Melissa here. Um, I, I lovingly tell her she's my favorite Melissa, and I mean it. Really great supporter of SHIP and all of these amazing efforts. She's an engineer turned educator. She's done so many different things. If you ever get the chance to talk with her about all of her experiences, some great stories, great experiences, a great journey, but super excited for her most recent project that she's done with Tech Women Arizona. So if you get a chance to check that out, I encourage you to go on social media and follow them and see what they are doing. Some really great efforts there. So, Melissa, thank you so much, and thanks for your most recent addition on the national board as serving as our, I'm not going to get the title right, treasurer.
Yes,
I got the title right. Okay.
yes.
Well,
It's very simple.
Melissa's gonna moderate for us today, and so excited to have you all join us.
So welcome everyone. Welcome ship members and non-members. Great to have you here again. Great to be here a second time to moderate. It's fun. It's good practice. Please keep your camera on if you can. We'd like to see your great smiley faces. Mute your mic though, unless you're speaking. Engage in the chat. If you have questions for the speakers, please add them to the Q&A. And then make sure that at the end you do the survey.
I'm gonna throw the poll up so we can see who all's here.
Let's see. Mhm.
Looks like almost everybody has taken the poll. Give it just another moment. Okay. So it looks like the majority here are kind of just exploring, which is great. Lots of learning happening. Love to hear from some of you who are at that getting started and launch stage. So there's some opportunities for you to engage later. We'd love to hear from you too. Thanks for sharing, everyone.
So just a few things to remind you about or to let you know about. We do have a LinkedIn group. This is the QR code for it if you're not in there yet. So that's one way to network with the people that are part of this group. And this is one of our virtual event programs. We have the cafecitos, which we do, is it twice a month, Susan? Once a month. Once a month, and then this event once a month. And we are planning for the national convention. We are planning to have a couple workshops there and a networking event. So that is still to be determined. This is the next or our first academy, I guess you could say, that we're doing. It's called the Inventor's Patent Account Academy, and you can still register for it here at the QR code. It is going to start on July 13th. It runs through oh, August. I'm covering for some reason. Can't see it. Um, and Susan, that's free, right? Okay. So getting to our main event, Merle, I met a couple months ago at Arizona Tech Week. He is a physics teacher turned software craftsman and is the co-founder and CEO of Bennu Systems, a Phoenix-based AI advisory and education company. After years in the classroom, he moved into software engineering and executive leadership. And he now helps founders and small teams put AI to practical use in their everyday work. He serves on the Arizona Technology Council's Emerging Leaders Council. At Bennu, his focus is making powerful AI tools approachable for people who just want to get real work done. Welcome, Merle.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Everyone, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Time is the biggest gift that we can give to anybody. So thank you so much for spending it with me. Now it's going to be my turn to reward you. I'm going to talk to you like I do a lot of my clients. By the way, can you see my screen? Yes? Okay. So, in this chat, in this talk, please talk in the chat. Melissa will be the bridge between you and I. I'll just be focusing mainly on this. And well, thank you so much. So, a bit about me. I did not grow up as a little boy thinking I would be an AI advisor. Actually, I thought more about being a pizza delivery guy just because I liked it so much. But things change, right? Life isn't always a straight line in this way. So, a bit about me. I'm not as cool as a lot of the professional engineers here in the house. I uh, I have my master's in physics, so I wasn't an engineer. I was on, the other side of things. So I aspire to be as cool as a lot of you. And I love physics so much. I was able to do research in a few places. Belgium one. This was in Brazil. And so I became a physics educator for almost a decade and loved it so much, but I moved on to, by the way, we didn't call it software engineering at the place that I worked. We called ourselves craftsmen, which will come up later, by the way. And so again, still not as cool as an engineer. And now I'm an entrepreneur. So who knows what your journey will be? Just be sure to take and learn from every step of the way. Now, before I gave it away, hopefully you didn't see that. So before we begin, let's talk about Roger Federer, right? One of the GOATs in the tennis world. What percentage of his matches do you think he won? Put it in the chat, please. And Melissa, let me know. We'll see how good these eyes were when they saw it first. Do I have any guesses? I don't see the chat. Or you know what? I'll check it out. Let's see. 50%, 85, 20%. How is he going to be one of the GOATs if he won 20% of the time? Come on now. Let's see it. All right, 60%, 100, shoot, if only 80%, yeah, 15. Okay, all right, now we're just trolling. Now we're just trolling. Okay, it was 80% of the time, right? Which is phenomenal. If only we succeeded 80% of the time at the things that we did, wouldn't that be pretty amazing? Well, it takes a lot of talent and effort and work on his part. Now I have a more interesting question, right? That's the percent of matches that he won. What about the points, right? In tennis, in order to win the match, you got to win the points, then the games. in the sets, but at least for the points, for the individual points, what percentage do you think you won? Okay, let's see. 60, 66, 80, 50, flip of a coin, 80. The answer is 54% of his matches, or excuse me, of his points to win 80% of his matches. Now that's kind of pretty incredible, isn't it? Only a 4% more than the flip of a coin in winning a point to win 80% of your matches, right? So really it just takes a small advantage, right? That can compound over time to produce victory. Now, why do I talk about that? Well, what are we talking about today? AI. Okay. So now it's everywhere. It's ubiquitous. You can't turn without thinking about it, without hearing about it, without seeing it. And so almost everybody uses it. Your grandma uses it, but how well do they use it? Okay. Now everyone uses it, and that's the new baseline. Okay. Maybe you've looked on LinkedIn, maybe you've seen it somewhere. You can see this AI slop, we call it, everywhere, where they're all to that same level now. And if you took this writing that you see so commonly, like the M dash that you see, also the phrase, it's not this, it's this, right? Maybe you recognize that. If you would have taken this 5 years ago, before this was such a phenomenon, then that would be considered pretty great writing or pretty decent writing, at least, much better than your average. And so we're all at that baseline now. But let me talk about this study because I know, we got a lot of amazing, wonderful, cool nerds in here. So I know we like studies. And so this was done by MIT 3 years ago. So imagine what the capabilities have changed since then. So we had about 500 participants, and they all were college educated professional individuals that had to do two tasks, every single one. All of them for the first task, and this was a writing task. They were lawyers, actuaries, accountants, these kinds of people, and they had to do a long writing task. And for the first task, everybody had to just use their brain, no large language model for anybody. And they scored, there's a distribution, right? Some scored poorly, some in the middle, some at the very top. Now, this is where the experiment gets interesting, right? For the second half, they split up people half. Some use the ChatGPT in this study. Some, again, just use their brain only. So what happened? Well, on average, people saved 40% of their time. So they completed the task, the second task, 40% faster. Just think of this. If this task took all day, some proposal that was being written that took you 8 hours, in this case, you could be done right after lunch. Pretty amazing. And then the second thing, I don't know if you see this right here. The people that scored poorly, that didn't use the large language model at all, that scored poorly on the first task, also scored poorly on the second task. Can you imagine that? Yeah, that makes sense, right? If you scored well, incredibly well in the first task, you're going to score incredibly well in the second task. Now, the interesting part is looking at the people that use the large language models. Well, there's a huge increase, especially at the people that performed poorly on the first task initially. There's this huge kind of, I call it the floor. This is what we see right now, right? Again, all of these posts, everything, we kind of see everyone right there. Where we see the real advantage is here at the top. That 4% for you comes from your expertise. By the way, I think if this study were a little bit larger rather than just 500 people, we would see a bigger gap right here. But we have this outlier that just kind of ruins the. Wouldn't you want this person on your team, or who is this person? I want to know. They're pretty cool, but this is where your 4% lives. This is where your floor gets raised, but this is where your 4% lives. In utilizing this tool, this technology, but using your expertise, using your judgment. A lot of people call it taste. I want to call it expertise, right? Here, you're the one that gets to choose the problem. You're the one that needs to provide it the right context, right? Context, the information, what's necessary to produce the result and output that you need. People talk about AI taking over jobs. It's possible in the future. Who knows? These models are getting better. All I know is about right now. Okay, I like to be more grounded, right? I like to be right in the middle, essentially saying like, hey, these tools are here. We need to use them to our advantage. but I still like to be realistic. It's not at the point where it can just do everything and it's magic. Maybe someday, maybe not. All I know is right now. So let me tell you a brief, simplistic summary about what these large language models are. And this is what I'm going to be talking about mostly, these large language models, as well as their harnesses, these agents. And so simply put, these models are just a word calculator, right? They're trained off of all of this data that we have over the internet. Have you ever gone on your email and seen autocomplete? Where you go in there, you say something like, I hope you have a, and then you see the autocomplete. It says, have a nice day, have a nice week, have a nice weekend, right? Whatever it might be, it tries to guess what you're trying to say. This is that, but on steroids and on steroids to the max, right? It's trained off of, again, all of the internet. So if you've ever argued with someone on Twitter or Reddit or in the YouTube comments, it's trained off of that information. So it gets your input, your prompt, your context, it gets its training, it puts it through its mathematical model, it tries to predict what you're thinking, and then it provides that output. So I just want you to understand that because a lot of people think this is like a genie, it's like magic or a truth machine. It's not, it's a probability machine, right? Again, a lot of nerds here, so we understand how functions work, right? Whenever you put X in, you expect Y out every single time. That's called determinism. That's traditional software. This is not deterministic. It's called non-deterministic, right? So you and I can put in the same exact input right now into different models. We're going to get different answers. Even if you get that same input, put it in an hour later, you're going to get a different output, right? Non-deterministic. So the whole point is to try to provide the best information possible for you to get the best outcome possible. Remember that. A lot of people try to just put in a little bit and assume it knows everything and it's magic. It's not. So I want to leave you with about 3 practical things by the time we leave today. Craft, but remember craftsman, it carries with you. It carries with you. So this is a process that can be useful for prompting, but also it will be useful with how you organize your agentic system, ideally after this, when you practice and learn more from this. I will tell you about the difference between chatbots versus agents. I'm sure we keep hearing about what that means. And then I'll give an explanation as to how workflows can be useful for you and give you kind of a crash course real quick. So again, some of this information might be a lot for many of you people. If it's not, hey, fantastic. That's great. And if it is, this is being recorded. You can watch it later and go over this material again. So I hate this phrase. It's a little cliche. By the way, that's me in Belgium when I was a lot younger. Look at that hairline. Look at these people don't know, but anywho, maybe I'm tooting my horn a little bit too much when I'm saying brilliant new hire, but in general, I just think this is a great situation where you can have someone that has a lot of knowledge that's eager to learn, right? These brilliant new hires, they're eager to learn, they're eager to please, right? If you have a new hire and you say, hey, write me a proposal for this company on day one, are they going to know what you're talking about? Can they propose a document for you? Yes. Can they create it? Yes. Will it be what you're looking for? Almost certainly no. Same thing when you work with these large language models. You got to explain the job. You got to provide the information. And then most importantly, right, review the work. You'll have a lot of these people talk about how much AI should you use. Some people go all the way with 100% for everything that they do. That's kind of the sloppish version. You can train it to be a lot better, but the review, if it's important, review it, right? Bottom line. And so let me give you some, some examples right here. Again, I've talked to many people. They say, hey, this AI, I thought it would be better. I give it this job, I give it this information, and it's supposed to provide me this amazing report, but it doesn't. It's like, yeah, find me a job. So in this situation, I'm kind of targeting like a student right now. If they say find me a job, you're not going to get it, right? Maybe you've seen these memes on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube where there's a voiceover and they're like, okay, make me an app, make me a millionaire, make no mistakes, be good, make it fun. It's got to be done tomorrow, right? Is it going to do a good job? No, absolutely not, right? So in this situation of trying to find a job, for example, instead of just saying that weak prompt or that weak system, you can say something like, draft me a resume from my real world experience. By the way, I made this resume last year. Here you go. I've been at this internship. At this internship, this is what I did. And by the way, you can verbally just talk into it. This is the kind of job that I'm looking for. Can you help target my resume for this kind of job at this company? Right. So the more information you provide, the better it's going to produce. Because if not, the weak request, slop. And we build this one block at a time. So now we're to the craft. Craft, yes, we're here. Okay. It's a little funky. You got to imagine it. We start at the bottom with the context, then we go up to the R, and then two A's and then FT. So craft in this sense. Why do I, it's a little hard to read. Why do I have context at the bottom? It's probably the most important step. It's the foundation of what you build after this. So providing the best context, useful context, is the best way to get the output that you want. There are ways to produce or to provide too much context that's useless. So the other thing that I mentioned, I don't know if you noticed, this is kind of built like Legos, right? In your business, in your job search, in your life, you're trying to build something, right? You're trying to create this universe around you. And this is one of the ways in which you can do that. And these are some of the tools in which you can do this. I'm going to explain them right now. But whether you want to build like little houses like this in rural neighborhoods or big buildings, whatever, these are your blocks that you can utilize however you want to build what you want. So just keep that in mind. You can pick and choose. You don't need all of them all the time. You just need what you want at that moment. So again, let's kind of go through this workflow like a student trying to get a job. So context, right? Let me provide you a real world example, and I'm guilty of this. I'm this person. Do you have a friend or do you have someone you know that tries to speak or tries to reminisce and says something along the lines of, "Hey, do you remember that time at that one place?" in a very general fashion, and then you like turn and you look at them, you're like, "What are you talking about? What do you We've hung out so many times. We've hung out for years. Like, which time are you talking about? Be more specific. Provide more context, right? That's me. I'm that guy. Thankfully, my friends understand me enough to translate Merleese to normal English. But so provide the correct context. Remember, we're talking about, in this case, we have a student that's trying to get a job. Hey, here's my previous resume. Here's my work history. These are the projects that I've worked on. These are the skills that I have, right? This is the job that I'm looking for. These are the companies that I'm looking for, right? A lot of times with humans as well. By the way, this also like works with humans, how we communicate with people. A lot of times we assume that people or this machine might know a lot more about us than we do. And so we have that lack of communication. So you got to come in with that understanding. Hey, it's a word calculator. It doesn't know everything. I got to provide the useful information about myself to get the best answer. So this is context. By the way, later on, context outside of prompts can be like files in your folders about your business, about yourself, right? There's these things called skills that you can build. We can talk a little bit about that later. Next is the role. And again, speaking of guilty, guilty again. When I used to teach people earlier, even probably within the past year, I used to tell people about this role. So this is useful, but also let me tell you how it's not useful. Before, people used to say, or some people still say now, something along the lines of act like an expert CFO or an expert person like this, as if it would unlock some mysterious superintelligence hidden in the model. That's not how it works, right? Let me tell you a bit about how it does work, right? Do you have a friend? Again, friend, you're applying for a job. So in this case, you tell your friend, hey, can you role play as the interviewer? Ask me a few questions, and then we kind of role play. And then it just is more practice for me. That's kind of it. Is your friend now an interviewer? No, they just pretend to be. They speak in that voice and you practice. Same thing for this large language model. Sometimes you might need, hey, can you look at this through the lens of this way, right? It might change the verbiage so the output, the model is still the same. It just changes the clothing a little bit. Hopefully that makes it clear. So again, it doesn't unlock anything super intelligent. It just changes the verbiage or the style. The aim, why it matters, right? You got to state the goal also. Why is it important to state the goal? Well, sometimes your thought process or your reasoning could be incorrect. So in this case, again, we're trying to find a job, right? Maybe you might say, okay, I want to get a job, I want to get an interview, and then you tell it this. But before you were only talking about a resume, and who knows, what's very powerful about utilizing these tools is that it can help inspire brainstorming for you, right? It's a good form to ping pong. It may not have all the answers, but it might inspire a thought that can provide you to where you're trying to go. So in this case, if you say, hey, I'm trying to get a job interview, who knows? It might say something along the lines, well, have you looked at this person on LinkedIn? And you're like, oh, no, I didn't think about that. And so you go and you look, and who knows, maybe they're in the same city that you are, and then you can connect and send a link out. I'm sorry, my voice. Sorry. Send a link out to say, hey, maybe we can get a coffee. Right. And in that case, that was you brainstorming off the suggestion that it provided. Sorry,
Merle,
my
I'm
throat.
happy to let you take a minute and take a drink here. I'm gonna just remind everybody. Thanks so much for Lucy Nuts for posting your question in the Q&A. If those of you who have questions, that's the best place to put them so they don't get lost in the chat. But remember, you can upvote each other's questions too. So if you go in your toolbar at the bottom of your screen, you should see a Q&A tool within Zoom, and you can see what Lucina posted and post some of your own questions. And so we will get to a Q&A time that Melissa will help us with at the end. So
Thank you so much for that. Sorry, the past few days, my throat has wanted
it
to
happens all the
have a
time.
fun time. So I might have to go up and get water later on today. But so ask. Now, why is asking important? So in this case, you tell the large language model to ask you questions. Why can that be useful? I say two reasons why. One, if it asks you questions, maybe you didn't provide enough context. You can provide more information to, again, get the output that you want. Second, it can ask you a question that you didn't think about before, right? That brainstorming, that ping-ponging, right? So that's why asking can be very useful. Format. What does success look like? Again, this could be dealing with humans as well, right? Being clear about what success looks like. In this case, you ask for a resume, it might give you 5 pages. Now, is 5 pages useful? Maybe. Maybe you're only looking for 1 page or 2 pages. So you got to specify, hey, give me a 1 pager, right? The more you specify of what you're looking for, what success looks like, the more you're going to get out what you're looking for. Next is terms or boundaries, right? In this case, you can say, hey, only work off the information that I provided. Be a bit more conservative with the information that you place in there. Don't exaggerate. This is an example. A completely like left field example, I would say, is something like, say you're planning a trip or a journey somewhere, and you want to say, hey, I have a budget of X amount of dollars. Can you help me find flights and or hotels within this range? And then it'll do a good job of trying to limit it to that scope. So this is the terms or the boundaries that you can set for it. So again, now we have this concept of craft that could be useful for prompts, but also for working with your agents when they live on your computer, right? Again, context is the king. It's all of this information that can be useful. The role is the voice that you can dress it up. The aim is the goal, what you're looking for, and you might ping pong, brainstorm, get out what you're looking for. Same thing with the asking of the questions. It might cause some brainstorming to happen, or it could help you provide more context to, again, provide more success. The format to define success, and then the terms or the boundaries. By the way, what's the magic word? Put it in the chat. What's the magic phrase? I'm looking now. I'm looking. So Melissa, I actually helped out Melissa doing a daily briefer that I may demo a little bit later myself. But please talk about your experience.
So when he first told me about how this all worked, I was like, yeah, I don't think so. I don't think I'm going to really try and have the tool go into my computer or Google Drive to do stuff. But I did start doing it and I love it. It's amazing. I think it's a great business tool, so I push it hor wholeheartedly to anyone that I meet. So it's great.
Thank you for that. And actually, thanks for telling us about your concerns going into it because those are very valid concerns. Absolutely. And I'll touch on that as well. So let's go into the agents, right? What are agents? If you know, great. If you don't, like, I'm going to try to clarify it for you. Now, this is the analogy that myself and many others like to make. These large language models, right? We call them AI generally. Think of this like the brain. In a situation, it's almost like us right now. Say you're in your office and we're talking through Zoom, through Meet, whatever Teams. In this case, you want to staple papers for some reason. I can't go through the screen and go and do it for you, right? But if you don't know how to do it, you can ask me and I can provide instruction and you can go and do it yourself. That's what a lot of that's what most people use it as, right? I talk to a lot of business owners. They're like, "Oh yeah, I use AI. What do you use it for?" It just helps me write emails and I use it like a Google or a search engine. Like, okay, you can use a lot more, right? You can unlock a lot more power later on. So in that case, you're just talking to the brain. It's not really doing much. And by the way, who knows? In 3 months, this talk may be outdated completely, but I'm trying to be general enough to provide this. Right now, most of the agents, the best agents work on your computer. So in this case, you get that brain, right? That large language model. You put it into what's called a harness, or in this case, we can look like a body, right? And now it can create those files. It can complete these tasks. It can search online for you. It can do many things, right? Right now, again, this is you building the Legos, right? Your imagination is the key. So, what are these harnesses? What is that body to that brain? As you know, the brain, right? The brain is something like ChatGPT, you've heard about, Gemini from Google, Grok, Claude has different ones. They're called like Opus, Fable, or Mythos, right? These are the brains that I'm talking about. Now, these are the harnesses. This is the body that you can put that brain into. And did I cover all of them? No, of course not. There's many more out there. So if I missed your favorite, my apologies. These are just some of the ones that I use. So OpenAI or ChatGPT has Codex that you can utilize. That's the harness that it can enter. So you download it onto your computer. Google has anti-gravity or Gemini has anti-gravity. Claude has two, and in a way, it kind of, it's making changes this week that we speak. By the way, things change so rapidly. Today, ChatGPT 5.6 came out. Cloud Cowork was its own section in Cloud Desktop. Now it's part of chat. And it's going to be on your phone and online. Things are changing very quickly. So I hope this is still useful when you watch it again. And so for me, I use all of these. I use all of them. My preference at this moment is Claude, but who knows? That may change in a week or 2 weeks or a month from now. So these are the harnesses that can exist on your computer. Now, tokens, man, we can talk about this for a long time. A lot of these things we can just, I can go on and rant out about for a long time, but I'm gonna do my best to make it simple for you. So tokens are your allowance, right? You ever play video games or arcade games? Maybe I'm dating myself, where you put literal tokens in a machine to use it. That's what's happening right now. What a token literally is, it's like a 3 or 4 letter word or characters that are written down. So everything you see on the screen right now is a token. Okay. And with whatever plan you have, if it's free, if it's 5, 8, 20, 100, $200, you have some amount of tokens that you can spend to use. And you got to use it wisely because it's very easy to spend your tokens, especially with the more powerful models that are being created. Those just are very token hungry and energy hungry. So it's important well, one, use your tokens because if you don't use them, you lose them. But also be cautious with, how you utilize them. And the more documents you provide, the more tokens it uses. So that's why it's great to provide useful context. However, if you have a messy context, too much context that isn't really pertinent to the task, then you're just burning tokens for no reason. Okay, so what are some ways? Well, again, limit the information that's in there. In this case, if you have an agentic system like those ones that I told you about that you can download. Oh, by the way, if I can go back, for these ones, you have to pay for some form of subscription. These don't come with the free model. So you got to pay at least, I mean, $5, $8 for some of them, but I would say for most of them have that $20 range. But if you utilize it to extent, that's probably the best $20 a month you can spend money on. So back to the tidy folders. In this case, if you have a particular situation, like we were talking about a resume builder or a job finder, we can have one folder where we have all these documents in there, context, where you provide it in there, and it can do a good job of only focusing on that situation. And then, yeah, using the right model. Here, oh, let me show you this right here. So in this case, you can still see my screen. Right here, I'm using Claude again. In this case, the top model is almost always at the top, right? So fable, mythos, mythology, it's the top. Burns a lot of tokens, very powerful. Utilize it for very important things. And it even tells you right here, haiku is like short, right? Think of the poems. It's useful for very quick and very few tokens. Sonnet and opus, magnum opus, a sonnet, right, is a bit larger than a haiku. Utilize them for their intended purposes. The way that I use fable as a planner, and then I use haiku and sonnet as my doers, right? So kind of like the CEO. Are you going to have your CEO be doing menial tasks like stapling papers? Possibly. I'm not saying no, but it takes a lot of money for them to do that as opposed to doing something else that's a bit more important, right? So have these ones plan stuff out, have these ones do it if you move into the agentic side, and that'll do a good job of being efficient with your token usage. Now, as Melissa was saying, my thing, always be cautious, right? Again, some people are gung-ho. They're like, hey, have at it. Go ahead, do everything. There are very scary stories of people giving these agents access to their bank accounts and it being drained, right? Or saying like, hey, tidy up this folder and it accidentally deletes everything. So you got to be very specific and very cautious with how you utilize it, right? So for me, I like to have one approved folder, call it whatever you want, right? Playground, universe, Claude, ChatGPT, Grok, whatever you feel like, place it in there. And then that's when you can allow it to have access to it. But try to limit it to that. If you're braver than most, then go ahead, have it do more. This is my recommendation. And only put relevant files in there. Sometimes you have financial papers that you don't want to have, right? And or again, for context, for one folder, if you're trying to build your resume again, are you going to put your workout routine in there? No, that's context that's going to pollute that system and or waste more tokens. So, by the way, have you ever noticed where you have a long chat and you talk about different subjects in there and the quality might degrade? Yeah, that's because you're putting in all this mismatched context in there and expecting a great result. Limit your conversations or your tasks or your agents to one specific thing, and they'll do a good job at it. If you try to do too much, too wide, it's going to be worse. It's going to be a generalist. So in these folders, put only relevant files to what you're trying to accomplish. Again, limit and always review initially. When you get more comfortable, when you build a better system, then you can give it a bit more freedom when you learn more. And again, require review. Especially when you're starting off, this is the way to go. As you get better and you have more skills and more understanding, then you can allow it to have more freedom. But starting off, this is how we do it. Okay, so let me tell you about a few workflows, beginner, pro, and advanced. So beginner is the one that I kind of talked about, what most of your average people do. In this case, even doing just one prompt and saying, hey, build me this resume, right, from this experience, from this previous experience that I have. Even then, by the way, I like talking into my AI. I don't like typing. It's a lot faster. You can kind of just verbalize a lot of your thoughts and give a brain dump. I call it a verbal vomit. Just talk a lot. There's different programs that do it. I just use the native microphone. I think it's good enough. Um, so in this case, yeah, come out with that resume. Good. That's a beginner move. It's great. It's better than the people that don't use it, but we're just starting off. Now, what's a pro move? Now, a pro move is using these agents, right? Using these harnesses to be able to now, instead, you're like, hey, every morning, I need you to look up these job sites, right? Whatever they might be. Look them up, read them, see which ones match to me, create a report, have it to me every morning, and then I can look and I can see which jobs I got to apply for. Right? That's a pro move. That's a pro, almost Roger Federer. Probably not making the tour, but you're getting to that level. Now advance. What's an advanced move? Well, in this case, you can have different agents coordinating with each other, right? In that you can have agents that go and do that pro move. They go and they search for these jobs. They see what the criteria is. They create a little report on it, but then they hand it off to another agent. Now that agent, what does that one do? That could be your report builder, or excuse me, your resume builder, right? So now you can create a resume for every single one of these jobs and probably have an email ready. So in this way, by the time you wake up, by the time you're drinking your coffee, you don't even have to search for jobs. You can have the jobs listed along with that specific resume ready for that job. Now, again, I've been gearing this towards students trying to find jobs. Let's kind of change that shift. It's the same exact workflow, the same exact process, but what if you're a company? What if you're looking for proposals, right? There are these things called RFPs, RFIs, RFQs, requests for proposals, something that you can find similar to like a job listing, but for a company to win that you can bid on. In that case, same thing. You can have it search for these. If you already have a place that you already go, automatically, boom, download to a folder. Next thing, instead of a resume, you can create that proposal. Now, again, is it going to magically do it? No, you got to have examples of proposals that you've written before for clients. You got to create a draft of a proposal, right? Excuse me. Yeah. A template, excuse me, a template based off of these proposals that you've written. Now that you have these new and even standard operating procedures, right? The more useful context that you can provide in there, capability statements, whatever you need, the more useful information that you can provide, the more context that you can provide, mixed with these bids, now you can create a better proposal. And again, is that proposal going to be 100% ready? Probably not, but it might be 90% ready, maybe 80% ready, maybe 60% ready. But isn't that better than what it was before? So this task that may have taken you 4 hours now is half the time, maybe even shorter. So again, this is how we get that 4%, right? That 54% that leads to 80% winning. Quick demo. I'm not going to do anything crazy. By the way, this is what ChatGPT looks like. This is, or Codex. This is Codex for ChatGPT. This is what Claude Cowork looks like, and in this case, Code as well. I like dark mode. There's a terrible joke that I'm going to make for software engineers. Why do software engineers like dark mode? It's because it doesn't attract any bugs. Yeah, I know. Speaking of bugs, all I hear is crickets right now. There's a reason why I'm doing this and not on tour making jokes. But thank you for that one. So, I mean, they all look the same. They all have the similar structure. In this case, I'm going to go to code. I like code a little bit better. If you utilize Cowork, that's great. So in this situation, I'm going to say, here, I'm going to talk into it. So nobody's saying nothing, just me. All right. So I'm doing a presentation right now, and I need you to show me my daily briefer for today and tomorrow. This is going to be recorded, so don't provide any real personal information. Don't have their names present, just have their initials. Don't have the companies named and any dollar amount. Don't place in there. Go ahead and give me this daily briefer. So it's going to take a little bit. And so we'll come back here and we'll check on it in a minute. So here's the thing. That's all I did. Did I do the whole craft method? Kind of. You just didn't see it. I've been doing it for months, right? So what do I mean by this? Okay. Remember when I talked about a lot of people just try to put in a little bit of information and expect the world after, right? That's called one-shotting, right? In this world, it's called one-shotting. You expect to do it once and then you hope it works out, right? You're engineers. You know that it doesn't work that way, right? What do you got to do? You need to iterate over and over and over again. And are you ever done iterating? Probably not, but every single time you get a better result, right? So again, think of that craft method, that context. So in this case, with that agentic system that works in your files, you have a goal, right? What are you trying to accomplish? And in this thing, I'm not saying don't try to one shot it, try to one shot it. You just know it's not going to be good. And then you iterate on top of that, right? Gather the information that you think you need and then try it. Boom, just do it. Are you scared of it? Are you intimidated? That's okay. Just try it. See what happens. Just realize you're probably good. It's not going to be what you want the first time. Check, review. Remember, review it. If it's important, review it. If it's not, don't worry about it. Sure, make it sloppish. It's okay. Save it and then revise it and then come back to the goal again and over and over and over again. Remember, I talked about context. There are these things called skills that if you do something over and over again, you can write a file so that when you ask it to go into that folder, it'll read that file and understand the steps that it needs to do to get better, to do that goal that you wanted. Again, part of context. So with this, don't try to just one shot everything and expect it's going to work out. Recognize that you're going to have to iterate over and over and over again to build the Lego world that you want. Right? Oh, something else. I should have written it down somewhere. Memory is important. What do we mean by memory? Maybe you've heard the phrase that AI gets smarter as you use it more. Yes and no, right? Again, most people saying this are utilizing the chatbot online. Again, nothing against them, but is it getting better? Is it getting more personalized? Yes, but it can get way better utilizing this methodology that I've been telling you about creating these folders, about creating these systems with these skills. That's the memory. This machine, it's not going to remember much. It might be able to take some of the context that you got from something else and pull it in. But again, if you want the best output, you need to provide the best context. So you create these skills, this memory, these files that will do a good job, not reminding it, but teaching it what it needs to do. Because this, again, it doesn't have a memory. It just has the context that you provide. So let's see. Did it do a good job? So I have my daily briefer, right? It talks about my schedule. By the way, when you start one of these agents, this is the first thing that it tries to prompt you to do, to create. It's like the beginner way of doing things. It's very useful because, I mean, think about it. Instead of you looking through a big part of your email or your calendar, this is saves you maybe 15 minutes every day. And again, that compounds, right? And imagine what else you can do. So, networking, by the way, this is us right now. AO, this is Meta. Talk about my schedule, overdue, and yeah, it's asked me a few questions. So nice, very simple. This is a very simple demo, nothing too impressive. But again, something like this can save you maybe 15 minutes a day. So this is the point of this whole conversation, right? It can provide that baseline that we are utilizing, but it's your expertise, it's your skills, it's your iteration, it's your gumption that will allow you to create that edge, that 4%, that 54% to help you win 80% of the time. Thank you so much. My name is Merle. This is my email. That's my LinkedIn. If you scan that, you can have access to my LinkedIn. Reach out if you have any questions. Thank you. We can move on to questions now if you have them.
So I can see them. Can you hear me? So let's see. Okay, so Merle said that AI works best on your computer. Do you mean it's better than on a phone tablet, etc.? If so, will I stop using the convenience of my phone?
So again, there's nuance to every answer. If you just utilize the chat feature, it's the same, right? I'm not trying to say that having the ChatGPT on your computer by itself is going to be better. Remember when we talked about the brain? It's the same brain, right? It's more like you can allow it to have that harness to be able to utilize better. And even then, more sophisticated, now talking about the harness and the agentic version of that. So if you just use the chat, no, it doesn't matter. Okay. Now, back to the agentic version. One, if you're very, very advanced, you can connect a lot of different systems to your phone to be able to do that. But even if you're, let's call it the pro level, maybe I should come back to sharing. I'll come back to sharing. So let's see. Do we see it up here? So Claude has something called dispatch where you can, if your computer's on, oh, I should have said something like that. I'm glad we're actually asking this question. But if your computer's on, you can connect your phone to it and you can go on dispatch on your phone and say, hey, can you look through my computer to be able to get this, this, and this? Now, again, is it going to be able to do it perfectly? Not necessarily, but if you set up a good system, good context to be able to get that, you can utilize your computer and your agentic system through dispatch. ChatGPT has something else similar called pulses, or it might be called something else, but a lot of these larger agentic ones have some sort of system like that. So hopefully that answers your question. And actually, if I can, talk a little bit more, expanding on something else. So right now we're on cowork. You can do something called scheduled. Scheduled in code, it's called routines. In ChatGPT, the Codex is called scheduled as well. So in this case, you can come in. So remember, I manually did it right now. I went in and asked it to give me a daily briefing. But what if I don't want to do it? What if I want it to automatically do it by itself? For a lot of these, you can go in here, go scheduled, and you can create a new task. Here, you can use it with Claude. So in this case, you can say, hey, it automatically gives you that. Set up a scheduled task. If you want, you can create something new. Like I mentioned, maybe scan for job opportunities or job listings or bidding places. So you can come in here on that scheduled section, tell it what you want. Tell it, do you want it at 8 a.m. every day? Do you want it at 5 p.m. every day? What do you want, right? What are you looking for? So this is another powerful tool that you can utilize to, again, just save you a little bit more time here and there. All of it compounds. So hopefully that answered your question.
So are there any other additional questions that you would like to ask? Anybody?
You can feel free to unmute your microphone. We do have a few more um, in the chat, and I do think that this was kind of covered, but I agree. How and where do you create an agent? Is that what you mean by the schedule? Like that is the agent, like when you
Yeah, that can
schedule a
be part
task?
of it. Again, I'm trying to simplify the terminology, but I would say utilizing that harness of Claude, uh, Claude work. Same thing with ChatGPT Codex, right? These are where you can use those agents to be able to do it. So in a way, really, the agent is going to be like the brain again, moving forward and going through these your files or online or doing whatever you need to. But this is the hardest to allow that to actually happen. So that's how you can do it by paying for a subscription and downloading these to be able to do that.
Okay.
Again, there's a lot more advanced things that you can do on top of that as well, but this is the beginning step to be able to do so.
Hey, I love to ask the question. So I want to say thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom about AI entrepreneurship. It really inspired me. I'd love to ask, I know you're a teacher before you said. So how has like being a teacher helped you become a better entrepreneur and probably even help you train your AI models?
Oh man, that's a great question. Thank you for that. So, in the terms of entrepreneurship, when you are an entrepreneur, you have to meet with a lot of people all the time. And as a teacher, you gain a lot of skills to where they call them soft skills, right? Where you can deal with a lot of very different people. It's very challenging to be a teacher. Outside of teaching the material, you have to deal with, go to the students level. You got to work with your coworkers, right? You got to go work with the administrative staff, and you also got to work with the parents. And not everyone is happy all the time. So you got to be able to do a good job to manage here, there, bing, bang, boom, and be able to explain what you need to. So in a way, entrepreneurship can be very similar because you got to deal with a lot of different people that may not be happy, that may be happy, and just be able to communicate well. Sometimes, especially if we're in the STEM world, we may not have, maybe naturally, or maybe within that realm, we just didn't gain those skills, those abilities. So being a teacher has definitely helped my soft skills in that way as well. And then the other part is being able to explain things and break things down. Okay, something that can be a part of this, right? So similar to that engineering mindset, that STEM mindset of like, here's the problem. How do we find out where the goal is? How do we break it up into meaningful steps, right? So this is where your engineering background can go in, right? I can see victory. I know where that goal is. Let me break it down into sizable chunks that I can actually manage to move forward. So I would say those are the two ways that allow you to communicate well with others and ideally have success, whatever that means in your eyes.
Thank you for sharing.
I see a hand, Alexander.
Yeah, just a general question. Every time I see code, is that literally for like programming software code, or does it do something else?
Thank you so much for asking that. That's something that I should have covered. So, and maybe I did, maybe I should have explained it a bit more. Again, we don't have that much time, but so yes, a lot of people get intimidated by the term like code, which it can be challenging. However, as you see right here, I went to code and it went and did a lot of my daily briefer. So even though it's called Claude Code, you don't have to only work in code to be able to do that, right? In a way, I like the Claude Code better than Cowork. Again, personal preference. Everyone has theirs. And so they can do a lot of similar things. I just like the customizability with Claude Code. So in a way, it's just I would call it a more customizable version of co-work in this case. And same thing with Codex. I've talked to several business owners about downloading something like this. And Codex, again, it's advertised as a coding agent that can work with you. However, these tools can be utilized for business purposes. Again, a lot of what I said, the problems that most people face are email management. It's some document generation like proposals. It's client meetings, right? Preparation for client meetings or even follow-up. There's a few other things that I'm probably missing right now. All of these things can be done by Codex and or Claude Code or Anti-Gravity by Gemini or, again, there's other agents out there that can all do that. Again, these are the harnesses that can do that business value for you. It's just the brain that's has the hands and is activating anything else. So thank you for asking that. Hopefully I answered that. So it's not just for code. It can be useful for many things.
Got it. Thanks very much.
Hi, this is Lucina. I can't seem to find where to put my hand up to get called on, but I asked one of the questions and it wasn't answered about how to keep my ideas private or secure because I'm trying to generate. I'm starting as a graphic novel to present it for like a TV comedy series. And yes, jokes are universal, but the way I'm presenting them, I want it to be a certain way. I've already looked a little bit at ChatGPT and a little bit. I did purchase 1 month of ChatGPT and then more time on Gemini. I haven't started using it yet, but I'm trying to learn more about it. That's why you're saying anti-gravity is what how I would do task agents on Gemini, right?
Yeah, that's for if you want to use Google, right? So again, the AI
Yeah.
model is the brain, Gemini is the brain, is the model. Anti-gravity would be like the body surrounding the brain for Google, right?
For Google. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So I do have that one. But my
Okay.
question was specifically, I was trying to choose something that would keep my ideas private because I know they teach
Yeah.
on the free versions, they use your questions and data to train for the next person.
Right. So that's a great question. And it depends specific thing you're looking for. For a lot of these, they have like ways that you can opt out of training data. So I haven't looked at that for anti-gravity. I know Codex and Claude Code have little easy toggles that you just got to find in the settings. If not, you could again go online, search for the way to do it, and then just click it so that your data doesn't train other models later on. Now, whether this company will actually do what they say, we'll see. But if that's the only concern that you have, then that should be an easy fix if you go in the settings and change that. Now, there's other stuff like IP. If you write your information, if you write your app, if you write your story through these large language models, who owns it? I don't have the best answer for that. That's more of a legal question that a lawyer can do a better job of answering. So hopefully
For
I answered that. And then actually this triggered, again, the ping pong, the brainstorming, this triggered another thought process. This is one of the tools where you can literally ask it how to utilize it the best or what you can do. Right. So sometimes you might have concerns. So you can go to it, be like, by the way, where do I go to turn this off? And it can be like, oh, go to settings, go to here, go to this tab, and it can help you out. So that can be very powerful to use it that way as well. Yeah.
So thank you so much. We're over time. Can you stop sharing,
Oh,
Merle?
apologies. I was hoping you'd kick me out.
I don't think I have that capability or power.
Okay.
Only Susan does. So thank you, everyone. This was a great topic, and more additional questions came in, but I think we'll just have to do another session, right, Susan? If Merle is up for it with the specifics.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, tell me what you want. I'll see what I can do. And again, you have my LinkedIn, my email. Please feel free to reach out.
So these are our upcoming events. Our next cafecito is August 12th, and our next workshop will be August 20th. And if you want to participate, you can use this QR code for either the cafecito or the workshop. No prior experience is necessary. You just have to address your topic and just do what Merle did, and you're good to go.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Melissa, and thank you, Merle. I know there were questions that we couldn't get to. I will say if you're a ship member and you join that LinkedIn group, Merle's in our group, so you can ask him questions in there as well. So feel free, but definitely we'll talk. This is clearly a topic that we could spend a year or more on and still not scratch the surface, right? So thanks, Merle, for opening the door for us. And I hope you all have a great night. I will send out the recording tomorrow to everyone.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Have a
all.
great night, everyone. Bye-bye.